Did you know that in trading, about 95 to 97% of people lose their money in the long run, like within the very first year? Just imagine that out of 100 people who start trading, after a year, if we're lucky, only 3 to 5 people will actually be in the black. And I don't know all this from some statistics gathered somewhere. I've seen it personally. I'll tell you right now, guys, I'm not gonna sell you a perfect picture of the world. You know, sell the dream that you'll become millionaires overnight. I'll try to give you the real picture with numbers, mistakes, and the things people usually keep quiet about. Today we're going to cover a few topics. First, how much money, how much capital you actually need to start living off trading. We'll also look at why most of the successful traders you watch are lying to you, and what exactly you need to do to start earning, and which mistakes you should avoid. Anyway, I think it's definitely going to be interesting. But before we get into the video itself, I'd like to mention that I have my own Telegram channel. If you're interested, I'll leave a link to it below this video and in the description. Be sure to check it out. I post free signals, news analysis, and lots of useful info for beginners there. So guys, I'd like to start with how much money you need to start making money in trading. It's actually very important to distinguish here. First of all, you need to understand for yourself what type of trading you want to do. Meaning, is it options or investments, like say stocks and so on? Or is it crypto? The returns are different everywhere, and you need to understand what kind of returns are actually possible for you. Then choose your capital based on that. How should you choose your capital? Based on how much you can make per day. For example, I'm currently trying to minimize all risks. And our returns, if you open my channel, the one I was just talking about, I always show the stats honestly there, including all losses, all gains, and so on. And on average, specifically with options, since it's a high-risk product, we earned about 10 to 20% a day. I mean, that's already through the roof. Obviously, you can actually earn much more with options. But with those returns and proper deposit allocation, well, everyone's happy with that, naturally. So even if we take an average return of, say, 15% a day, based on that, you can calculate what amount you need to start with. For instance, if you want to earn $5,000 a day, which is like $150,000 a month, you need to start trading with, say, $30,000 to $50,000. It's very important to approach it this way, because otherwise, greed will kick in. You'll earn less than you expected, and naturally, you'll be pulling your hair out, thinking, man, I want more, right? I mean, there are tons of people who start trading with, say, $10,000, even though they want to earn $10,000 a day, you know? Naturally, they'll think, man, my expectations were actually much higher than that. And what does that person start doing? They start trading more, taking on more risk. And in the end, all of this leads to blowing the account. That's why choosing your deposit size is really very important. At the same time, I kind of started out focusing specifically on options because with options, you don't really need a massive deposit. You don't need to have millions of some kind in your account here. If we're talking about crypto, for example, then obviously to make money in crypto, especially if you want to earn on the spot market too, you really need to have millions because otherwise, well, imagine crypto can of course change by 7% or 10% in a single day. Mostly, if you look at it over a month, there won't be a gain of, I don't know, 100%, for example, right? And if you invest 100, 200, or 300,000, even if, imagine, you get a 100% change, which again is extremely unlikely to happen, you'd only make those same 200,000 or 300,000. And even then, you'd have to be very, very lucky. Many people come into crypto with small amounts of money and start trading with huge leverage, 50 or 100 times their deposit. And imagine, they can lose their money if the price changes by just, say, if you took 100x leverage, for example. If the price moves just 1%, that's it. You could already lose all your money. So you really need to be smart about choosing your deposit size. Obviously, if you have a huge capital to start with, a lot of money, you can use other instruments then. And overall, you could build a pretty decent investment portfolio out of stocks, live off the dividends for instance, and earn some interest. And imagine, I don't know, if you earn even 30%, like 20 or 30% annually on stocks, then that's it. You'd already be covering all your needs, so to speak. With options though, everything works differently. And in trading in general as well. So here, everything depends on what your initial goal is. It's also very important here, to look at some of the reasons why people actually lose their money. The first thing is that, unfortunately, many people, no matter how many times I say this, trade with money they can't afford to lose. And not because they'll necessarily lose it, but because if someone trades with their last bit of money, with credit or borrowed money, well, what do they start doing? Exactly, they start worrying. And that stress is exactly what causes a person to make a huge number of mistakes. Unfortunately, right? I'll be honest with you, I'm telling you this from experience because I started once too. And in fact, I started with my very last bit of money. And I wouldn't advise anyone to go through that. Because to be honest, when I started, I lost it all. And I kept losing for a long time. That's why you should never trade with your last bit of money. And in general, with your last bit of money, guys, listen to me. I never recommend, putting it into a business or any other investments, right? So it's better to look for another way to make money first, right? And then invest from a position where you already have some money. So please, take this advice to heart. No matter how much you want to, don't do anything with your last money. Also, unfortunately, many people get into trading without a full understanding. Or they've just listened to some people who promise them, the world. People come in, they don't understand anything, and they see trading more like a game, like a casino. People don't focus on the fact that you need to learn here, that you need to develop somehow. And in trading, well, I think those are really the most important things. And I'd also like to add that some people, when they start trading, they start confusing a lucky streak with a system, right? Consequently, at some point, they overestimate themselves, and then they lose it all, and quite a lot of it. I'll give you a little real-life example. When I already had experience, so to speak, I'd already lost it all many times. I had problems. Then I started making my first money and was making it for like several years. And then the pandemic starts. During the pandemic, there was a huge amount of news. A lot of interest from people in trading woke up. A lot of people in general. The market became more volatile. And I'll tell you honestly, during the pandemic, I was making pretty good money. And that was actually the best period of my life. I traded for almost a year without losing it all once. Whereas before that, I'd lose it all, like once a month, sometimes twice a month, sometimes once every few months. So, I never had a period like that. And then for me, this kind of year happens. I, of course, was already fired up with such strength. I'm already thinking, I can do anything, I know everything, and so on. And in the end then, bam, I lost it all. And you have no idea how much that hit me. I felt defeated. I lost, a significant amount of money. If you're interested, give it a like, I'll tell you later. It was a pretty tough situation for me, so to speak. After which, I was recovering for a long time. Yeah, and making up for that loss for a long time. And overall, I realized that, as it turns out, yeah, I'm not that omnipotent. But it just made me look at the mistakes I was making. Look at why it happened that way. I learned from it, and I think I've actually improved my trading in many ways. But I'll say right away, the good news is that, guys, living off trading is actually possible. Yeah, it's not a fairy tale, but actually not the way many people sell it. I'll tell you now about, actually, a few things that distinguish those who have actually achieved some results from those who just lost it all and left trading altogether. They say it's all a scam, it's all a fraud, you won't earn anything here. For example, I found for myself, and since I'm also telling all this, considering that in my VIP club right now, over 12,000 people are trading with me, just so you understand. So I'm sharing both my own stories and drawing some conclusions based on, other people's stories, because I stay in constant contact with many of my subscribers. So to start with, I believe there should always be some kind of stability. Then you need to scale up. Think about how to do that. In the beginning, you definitely need to learn. On average, it takes about 6 months. At the same time, initially you can try, your hand at a demo with a small deposit, then later move on to larger amounts, a real account, and so on. You can't quit everything at once, right? Everywhere. I always talk about diversification, about how you should never over-risk, so to speak. And actually, even considering that I do trading, I try to build up, secondary sources of income, preferably passive ones. So if, for example, you have a job and you're just starting the trade, naturally you shouldn't take steps where you don't really have any results yet, or you got some at first but haven't turned it into a system yet. You don't yet understand that this is happening for you on a regular basis. So initially, you should always have a parallel source of income. You should never quit anything right away. It's also important to understand, that risk management is much more important than strategy. I mean, I always advise setting like 1% per trade, calculating your deposit for 6 steps, so that you always understand that, first of all, you have the chance to mess up, to do something wrong. You always know that you have money in reserve. Even if something suddenly goes wrong, you can always open like another step, another step, another step, and you can always cover the losses. And if you trade according to some strategy, no matter if it's like by the news or whatever, you always have an amount that you set, and relatively speaking, have the chance to come out ahead. The next tip is also quite important. I recommend withdrawing all profits once a week. This way, you create a financial safety net for yourself. You always know that no matter what happens, you already have money set aside, and you can easily take it, and basically from that safety net, even if a wipeout happens, start trading. That's it. There are no more problems, so to speak. It's also very important to realize right away, guys, that you need to stop believing in fairy tales. I fully understand that you can watch me on YouTube, you can watch other traders, and I don't see other people right now who talk about everything just as openly and honestly. I always talk about the losses. I always talk about how trading, and I'll tell you more, isn't for everyone. I'm more than sure that some of you will come, start trading, and start making money from it. And after some time, realize that it's not interesting to you, or it's too stressful, even considering that you're making money. And a person will just think and say, why do I even need this? I'm like making money elsewhere, working some other job. I'd rather just do that. So it's not for everyone, and not everyone enjoys it, right? I, for one, do trading because I understood the aspects of it that I actually like. Yeah, I like that there's no boss. I like being my own boss, so to speak, and that I can directly influence my own income, meaning all my results, all my earnings depend only on me and no one else at all. So I knew this was where I wanted to grow. Yeah, I was prepared from the start for what I'd have to do and how. I understood right away because I'd actually seen, well, an example. And this is where it's really important not to overestimate yourself. Yeah, absolutely don't. You have to realize that you're starting something completely new to you. And if things don't work out right away, it doesn't mean that something is wrong with you. It doesn't mean there are any major problems. It just means you need to keep going, keep learning, and draw the right conclusions. And believe me, what I'm saying is, naturally, most people come in, right? Why did 95% of people fail and end up in the red after a year? Because most people come in after watching those blogger traders who tell them that everyone here is going to become a millionaire. They say you'll start with a small amount and everything will just click instantly, and so on. Naturally, the person comes in, ignores all advice, lacks the knowledge I'm sharing now, makes the most basic mistakes, treats it like a game, and loses money. That's it. Their trading story ends right then and there. After which, they conclude that since they lost money, it must all be a scam, a fraud, and so on. They start hating on it and leave the trading world altogether. But that doesn't mean no one is making money from trading. I mean, you have to draw the right conclusions too. And that's why I always say that before you start doing anything, you should study the subject. You need to make yourself understand, that it's not going to be easy. This is, a basic example, but for instance, I've wanted to learn to fly a plane for a long time. And unfortunately, I realized that, first of all, it takes at least 9 months of study. Plus, you actually have to travel there, and it takes up a huge amount of time. You have to study a massive amount of material. And I understand that it's not easy. And most likely, if I were to do all that now, I'd have to drop the YouTube channel for a while, and I'd have to trade less for a while, meaning my income would take a hit as well. Basically, it would indirectly affect things. And just imagine if I set a goal to get my pilot's license, for example, and just went and paid for it right away without any thought or preparation. And then I'd immediately realize that, as it turns out, it takes a lot of time. And as it turns out, it's actually really hard. And I'd say, forget it, I don't need this. Yeah, so because I understand beforehand that it's not an easy process, I realized for myself that either I, so to speak, won't do it because I don't have the time right now, or I'll do it when I actually have the time for it. It's the same in trading and with any business, really, right? I mean, if you want to start a business, if you want to invest somewhere or whatever, you have to understand beforehand what you're getting into. Yeah, you have to understand that it won't be easy. The final question, right? Can you actually live off of trading income? And the answer here, as I said, is obviously yes. But I'll say it again. Only if you're ready to treat it like a business and not like some lottery. Most people, unfortunately, want quick money, and only a few are ready for some real work. And if you realize that you're one of those few, then you're already on the right track. But if you guys want to understand trading a bit more, learn about trading psychology, learn how to do things right, and just start getting into it, giving it a try without crazy expectations, then remember, I'm leaving a link to the Telegram below. Be sure to check it out. You'll definitely learn something new, right? I'm not asking anyone to work with me. I trade and make money just fine on my own. You can watch my other videos, but you'll at least start to understand the absolute basics, let's say, the very beginning of where to even start in trading. Thank you all so much for watching. If you like this video, please subscribe to my channel. Also, give it a like, leave your comments. I read all the comments and try to reply to all of them. Thank you all. See you later. Bye everyone.